Plastic is ravaging our oceans and consuming landfills. We're a throwaway society and something has to be done. In 2011, Hayley McLellan, a passionate anti-plastics educator, started a campaign to ban the bag in South Africa.
There are so many causes. Pick one. So this is my one. Good morning, and thank you for that wonderful welcome. I feel very humbled to be here and to be able to speak with so many amazing children who I know can make a difference in the world. Can you do that? Yes. Of course you can. We live in a plastic world. There's so much plastic everywhere we go. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes the bad thing is the way that we are in relationship with plastics. Just think about it like this. Every single piece of plastic that has ever been made still exists on this planet. Did you ever stop to think about that? So when somebody says to you, please go throw this away, where is away?
Hayley McLellan had worked with marine animals for most of her life, but she'd developed an allergy to fish protein and had cheated death after a reaction to a vaccination. She couldn't continue as a penguin handler at the Two Oceans Aquarium and had to find a new role. For several years, she'd been campaigning against litter and plastics in the ocean. Soon, this personal awareness would grow into a fully fledged campaign and take her into brand new territory.
If I said to you all, there is a huge plastic pollution problem on this planet, I need you all to go out there and solve that problem. I don't think I'd ever see you again. I think you'd run out the door and just say, cheers, that's crazy, lady. I can't do that. So, but maybe, just maybe, you can do one thing. So, rethink the bag.
She had this idea that she was going to ban the plastic bag in South Africa. And brilliant, brilliant, brilliant idea. And the more time she was spending with me, sustainability, I sort of thought maybe there's a gap here that we could actually grow this into a full-on Two Oceans Aquarium campaign. So I motivated for a position for her.
It was a great fit for us, and we realized that there were a number of campaigns that we kind of had going, but informally, or we were interested in, or we were trying to push, and we needed someone to kind of take them on as their project and run with them.
Yeah, she took that position in 2013, and I don't think has looked back.
So this is Rethink the Bag. How did it start?
I just had this burning feeling inside me that I could make a difference somehow, and it was all about plastic bags. Like 9 years ago, I just said, that's it. I don't want to see another plastic bag come into my life. And so it became about all plastic bags. Rethink the Bag is specifically focused on the plastic shopping bag at a grocery store. For Hayley, it's about every plastic bag. But for the public, it's about that shopping bag that you get at the cashier as you check out from buying your groceries.
Each year, South Africans use approximately 8 billion plastic shopping bags. The period of time each bag is used before ending up on the landfill is only about 20 minutes. Is it possible to break this habit?
It's totally possible. Other countries have done it. Rwanda is a great example since 2008.
I was in Rwanda recently, and I arrived at the airport. I'd wrapped my bags in plastic, and there was a woman at the airport in uniform who came to me with the big scissors, and she watched me. I had to cut all the wrapped plastic, put it in a special bin before I could cross the threshold and go into the country. You see no plastic.
Rwanda is the first African country to successfully ban single-use plastic bags. In 2016, Morocco, Mauritius and France passed legislation banning the throwaway plastic bag. After 20 years of working with marine animals, Hayley has had first-hand experience of the devastating effect of plastic in our oceans.
So tell me about Bob the turtle.
So Bob arrived with us as an adult in about 2014, end of the year, and was found on De Hoop Nature Reserve Beach. After 3 months of being here, Bob hadn't eaten. There was obviously a huge concern from a veterinary point of view, and like what's actually happening with this animal internally. When turtles particularly swallow things like plastic bags, it affects their buoyancy, and they need to be able to dive to find their prey. So he was literally, that's why we called him Bob, because he was just bobbing around his tank. And it's very non-creative, but it was kind of apt. And the one morning the staff came in and discovered a whole bunch of floating plastic in the rehabilitation pool, and we had to assume that Bob had excavated.
So Bob pooed it out.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of a weird thought. And then there were plastic bags of different colors, some black, some sort of green colors, and balloons with its strings still on. We have all of that plastic as an exhibit today. It brings it home when you can say, all of this plastic came out of this turtle.
In her new position as environmental campaigner, Hayley is supported by the Two Oceans Aquarium in her quest to reduce and ultimately ban the single-use plastic bag in South Africa. And the best place to start the campaign was on home ground.
First of all, when I felt this need in me to ban plastic shopping bags, I told the world, because then I knew I couldn't turn back. Our director at the time just announced it at the next staff meeting. Hayley has this great idea. We're going to ban plastic shopping bags in the country. We're going to start in this building. So from this day forward, nobody may bring a plastic shopping bag into the workplace.
Interestingly enough, it's not how we tend to operate at the Two Oceans Aquarium. We don't just ban things. So a lot of people didn't quite take too kindly to this, outright ban the bag.
I used to cycle to the aquarium from Hout Bay, and it rains a lot in Cape Town. And the best thing to keep your computer dry is plastic bags. And so Hayley and I used to get into quite a few fights about the fact that I was bringing in bags into the aquarium. So I said, fine. It's fine, but provide me with an alternative.
Hayley's solution was to make reusable bags from old Two Oceans Aquarium billboards.
Please come see a stamp here.
Fikile Siswenya was a volunteer at the aquarium at the time Hayley launched her campaign and took it upon himself to promote Rethink the Bag amongst staff and visitors.
Okay, and ask more questions. I have to monitor those who bring plastic bags in. And people said, no. Do you think I'm that idiot that can throw plastic bag into the aquarium tanks? I said, I know, but that's practice, not to buy plastic bags. And encourage those who buy not to buy them. That's a seaweed that they use in sushi. Feels like plastic. Turtles feed on this and jellyfishes, but now they confuse this with plastic bag. Yeah, it look the same to them. That's why we rethink plastic bag. I know you don't worry. I won't confiscate your plastic bags. But I know that in the near future, when you go buy stuff, buy reusable bags, which is fantabulous.
In 2003, the plastic bag levy scheme was introduced in South Africa. The aim of imposing a charge for plastic bags was to reduce the use of plastic.
When the legislation went in, there was a reduction in the production of plastic bags in South Africa. But as people got used to paying that few cents for that plastic bag, the amount of plastic bags being made in South Africa, as once-use bags, is steadily on the increase again.
Currently, the tax on plastic bags is 8 cents a bag, times 8 million bags. This comes to around 640 million rand a year.
This is a big one for me. Where is all that money going?
40% of that money that was obtained from the collection of the money was supposed to go into supporting buyback centres where people could take their plastics to and their other material, glass, paper, etc., for recycling. Unfortunately, that money was very badly spent by a company called Buyeze Bag. It folded. That money is now going straight into the fiscus, and anybody that knows the fiscus, once it goes into the fiscus, it's gone.
In my mind, it's almost a form of fraud because our money has been taken, but it's not been used for what we were initially told. So don't support that system. And the more people that know about this, the better, because then the more people, every time they look at a plastic bag, will be maybe thinking about the benefits to the environment to say no, that the monies aren't being misspent, and that they can feel empowered that they can make a difference. Can you imagine that 5, 10, 15 years ago, we were smoking wherever we wanted? We would smoke in a hospital, in an airplane, in the cinema. People were just smoking wherever they felt like it. And today, we think back on that and I'm aghast. And I really think that one day we'll look back at plastic shopping bags in the very near future, and we will have that similar realization and think to ourselves, can you believe we would use that many plastic shopping bags every time we went shopping? 8 billion in South Africa alone.
The plastics used in most consumer products today are a byproduct of the petroleum industry. It's incredible to think that plastics were only invented in the 1950s and now permeate every aspect of our lives. It's cheap, light and convenient, but it's also non-biodegradable. Once created, we can never get rid of it.
When we view litter on land, we know it's there. But we don't see what's in the oceans, out of sight, out of mind. And yet, there is so much plastic in the oceans, and especially along a coastal region, plastic blows into the oceans. What happens then is that there are currents that circulate the planet, and very specifically the 5 gyres. And they're important because they transport ocean temperatures and organisms, and animals migrate, etc. It's like a conveyor belt. And this plastic pollution ends up in this conveyor belt and it gets circulated around the planet.
Is this
and of course
floating island of plastic?
It's not an island that one could physically step onto and take a walk. It's more like a plastic soup. So I have a sample here, which is from this Indian Ocean gyre. Plastic doesn't biodegrade, it photodegrades with the powerful UV rays of the sun. It breaks down into smaller, tiny pieces. Soup is the best way to describe it. You'll see there are natural organisms. There's some fish floating down there and other things. And then floating above that are the microplastics. And then the not so microplastics, I mean, there's a bottle cap in there as well. And that is essentially what the ocean consists of today. And fish in the oceans are eating those microplastics because they're mistaking it for food. And then a much larger fish eats that. And so it goes up the food chain. You know, we might be out enjoying our sushi meal, but just be aware that everything that goes into the ocean goes into us.
So how big is the problem? There are estimates that by 2050 there will be more plastic in our oceans than animals.
Deborah conducts research into microplastics at the University of Durban-Westville. She met Hayley at the Two Oceans Aquarium, and they've stayed connected.
We were taught to be a throwaway society. This is an advert from Time magazine, which is the magazine. Yeah. The throwaway society was actually due to advertising, and the target market was actually women. And the 2 products that they targeted women to teach us how to be throwaway was disposable nappies and sanitary items. It's kind of really ironic. We only invented plastic in 1950 with bakelite, which is actually used to make snooker balls.
Okay.
We're now sitting at about 300 million tons of plastic being produced every year, 80% of which gets used once and thrown away. Hayley's dealing with plastic bags, the big plastics, the plastics that everybody can see. I like to call it the iceberg principle. If you sit there and think about an iceberg, there's only 1/8 of the iceberg sitting above the surface of the water. 7/8 of the iceberg is actually under the water. It's the unseen problem. What I've got here is a mullet that we've caught from Durban Harbour. And what I want to show you is, can you see that green fluorescing over there? If I open it up a little bit more, you can see the microfibers that are sitting. Our studies, 77% of mullet in Durban have microfibers in their guts, which means if you caught 10 fish, 7 of the 10 would have plastic in their guts. 80% of the microplastic pollution that's coming down in Durban is from our homes. 80%. Government doesn't need to make the change. We need to make the change. And if we went to a shop and every time we bought a product and we looked at the label and we said we're not buying that product because it's got plastic in it, then people are going to change what they put in the products. And it's the same thing with Hayley's campaign of Ban the Bag. If people make the choice to bring a bag, then we won't have many of the problems that we do have.
From a retailer's point of view, you know, I look around and they're all offering the alternatives. They're there, they're in the stores. It's about marketing them better. It's just going to take one big corporate retailer to also tell the world that they've committed. And that's going to be an amazing tipping point. Even though we think it's not expensive, 50 cents a bag, over 1 year, it's pretty expensive.
Hayley has presented to various retailers, but to date only one has bought into her campaign and is actively involving her to train their staff and change the way consumers make choices.
I really believe that the frontline staff, being the cashiers, have the power to shift consumer behaviour simply by the way that they word their engagement at the till. And what I mean by that specifically is to always offer a plastic bag as a last resort, not as the first option.
The ultimate aim for us is to become the first supermarket to be plastic bag free. I do think it's possible to create a plastic bag-free store. There is a bit of fear, obviously, on everybody's side, but I think that there's enough alternatives out there for people to actually switch over to reusable bags.
Rethink the Bag is creating a groundswell in retailers, in communities, and reaching out to school children.
I try to get to them before they become consumers, so they have awareness of the choices that's available to them, so that they don't have to accept a plastic bag, that they can know, I can say no thank you. I can maybe carry it in my hand, or I can bring my own bag. Just creating a foundation and a consciousness with knowing that there is a different option.
It came to my ear on other occasions. Hey, can't tell me about that, man. I'm just waiting for service delivery here, and I want a house, I want water, we don't have toilets, and you're telling me about recycling. Why got this government doing? And I will always come down and say, explain it, that government is not the one who buy plastic bags. It is our responsibility. And these areas, it's our areas where we live.
So when did you first look out and realize that we were in trouble?
It was a YouTube clip online. It's about a whale that beaches, that is clearly in distress. It's a massive whale. Eventually, the animal succumbs. Obviously, they did a dissection of the animal, and there are just square meters of plastic bags laid out. We've brought animals back from the brink of extinction. Now, those are amazing feats. So my leap of faith is that I know, in feeling the way I do and the passion that I feel for the work I'm doing, is just to continue communicating to the next, and no matter where, no matter who's interested, no matter where I'm invited to speak or to share my thoughts or to brainstorm, etc., I may make a difference in that moment. The difference that may be required to shift something radically and to create a miracle. You know, we have to keep believing and we have to keep hoping. It's not all lost. It isn't. It might seem at times, but it's not. So Kelly took me on a journey that was a complete achievement and accomplishment, and I can relate that to Rethink the Bag. By the time we hit the top of Kilimanjaro, we are walking so slowly. It's literally just one little slow step, and one's motivation is to just hurry up and get there. You can't do that. I mean, there's a chance you will die on that mountain if you do that. And I think it's similar with the campaign. I don't intend to die, but I need to take slow, simple steps and trust the process. It's all heading in that direction. If I just look back at, you know, from when we launched the campaign and where it is now, it's almost just like a big arrow pointing in a successful direction.